If it's not broke, please do not try to fix it. It feels like everybody, when it comes to scary movies, is always trying to reinvent the wheel. And while most remakes don't all miss, for every Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you have a zombie-fueled Halloween. So where does the 2010 version of A Nightmare on Elm Street with a brand new Freddy Krueger and directed by Mr. Samuel Bayer fall in line? Let's talk about it. So we've got an appropriately creepy intro to this movie with sidewalk chalk and what we come to know as Badham Preschool. And it's effective, but I can't help but miss the staple of the previous entries in the Nightmare franchise, where they open up with a creepy quote about death and sleep. One tradition they do keep, though, is starting us off with a nightmare, and we wind up at Springwood Diner with one of the kids from Twilight. Now, this guy is fighting off sleep. He's fighting off the impending death that is soon to follow if he does fall asleep, and he's trying to chase down a waitress in the diner who's denying his request for more coffee. Our Twilight guy is unsuccessful in staying awake, and the opening kill of this movie before the credits is a bit of a beast.
You're not real! You're not real! You're not real! I am now.
We also get our first glimpse of Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger. I have to commend them for this. It would have been very easy for them to just have this guy in the shadows for about half the movie until a big reveal down the line. But tear the Band-Aid off. There were plenty of people that were already annoyed that this movie was being remade, and there were even more people annoyed that they were casting somebody not named Robert Englund in the lead role. Now, this cast is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, this is one of the movies that falls into that habit of pulling all of their talent straight out of an Abercrombie catalog. Everybody's beautiful, but the main leads in this movie are the ones that stand out the most. Katie Cassidy is fantastic as Chris. We have Rooney Mara as our Nancy. Kyle Gallner plays Quentin. Kyle Gallner is fantastic in every horror movie he's involved with. And then, of course, we have Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger.
Hi, Chris.
Who are you?
You look just as beautiful as ever.
So once we get to Dean's funeral, Chris begins to realize that all these kids, they all knew each other when they were young children. And to the best of any of their recollection, they didn't meet before they were in their teens. She sees a photo board up at the funeral, realizes there's a picture of her as a little girl on it, and she starts to have daydreams, sort of flashbacks to a little blonde girl in a little dress with 4 claw marks across her chest. This movie's full of a lot of great homages to the original. Chris, who is played by Katie Cassidy, she's sort of the Tina of the film, although there's a lot more for her to do than Tina had in the 1984 original. She seems like, at the onset of this movie, that she could easily be the final girl. And on top of all that, she wears the exact same style jersey t-shirt that Tatum wore in Wes Craven's Scream and that Johnny Depp wore in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Very cool way to harken back to those great horror movies. Unfortunately, Chris winds up leaving us the same way that Tina did. She's thrown around the room, clawed up, blood everywhere, all while Dean, in the role of Rod, essentially watches on helplessly. Once he realizes that Chris is gone, he grabs his pants, gets the hell out of Dodge, only to be apprehended by the cops shortly thereafter. However, he does manage a moment with Nancy where he sneaks in through her bedroom window and warns her about what's happening. Gives her the classic line, "Don't fall asleep." Now, one thing they did with this movie that I thought was a great way to put your stamp on the franchise was the introduction of the effects of sleep deprivation and these micro naps that these teenagers are experiencing. Quentin explains these micronaps to Nancy, and they decide to band together to try to investigate who this Freddy is and why exactly he wants these kids dead. It's about at this point in the movie where Nancy's mom actually does decide to come clean. Maybe she realizes she's bad at lying and she wants to be truthful with her daughter, who is in clear danger.
His name was Fred Krueger.
She admits that the kids all did know each other when they were young, and the reason that that was kept from them was because of some trauma they all collectively suffered at Badham Preschool at the hands, presumably, of the gardener there named Fred Krueger, who took special interest in all the kids, but definitely Nancy was his favorite. Now we get a twist, a very interesting twist, and we talked about it a little bit ago about the micronaps and how these filmmakers want to do something with this franchise that hadn't been done before. Well, here they suggest, or they drop a hint, that maybe Freddy Krueger was innocent in all of this, and these young kids with these vivid imaginations came home and made some things up that got a man killed by an angry mob of parents. It's certainly an interesting direction to go in, and that would have been one heck of a hill for this movie to have died on. There is a scene at a pharmacy where Quentin is trying to get his wake-up pills refilled unsuccessfully, and Nancy herself is struggling with these micronaps. She's doing everything in her power to stay awake, even going so far as to taking a lighter from the car and burning her arm with it. Now, I know a lot of kids nowadays aren't going to know what that means. Cars used to actually have lighters in them, little round things, and if you stuck it to your skin when it was glowing orange, it was probably going to hurt you. The searing pain of that lighter lasts only so long, and Nancy decides to rush into the store to look for Quentin because of how long he's taking. All I Have to Do Is Dream by the Everly Brothers is blaring over the store's speakers. It's a fantastic addition to this scene. Nancy's falling asleep, she's experiencing these micronaps, and Freddy is slowly walking towards her. Now, once they find their way to where Batum Preschool is actually located, Quentin and Nancy realize shortly thereafter, Freddy's not trying to kill them because they lied. He's trying to kill them because they were being truthful about what he put those kids through. So this may be a little controversial, but I actually enjoyed the ending of this movie more than I did the 1984 original. Both are great. Both have the same premise of pulling Freddy out of a dream so you can hopefully mortally wound him in real life. I mean, he's not falling for booby traps. He's not tripping downstairs. He's not getting hit with a sledgehammer that he couldn't see from a mile away. I thought they did a really good job with the way they wrapped up the 2010 version of this movie. Love all the nods to the original. The blood on the ceiling, the school scene with Chris in the body bag, the mom at the very end of this one. I just thought they did enough to give credit to everything that came before it while also adding enough to sort of establish themselves. Now, sadly, this is the last installment of Nightmare on Elm Street we've had. And this is 14, almost 15 years ago. I thought Jackie Earle Haley was really good as Freddy Krueger. I mean, Jackie Earle Haley is fantastic. He's probably a better actor than Robert Englund, but Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. And there was a lot of backlash about it. I think a lot of people went into this movie with preconceived notions, and it already had a strike against them. So a lot of people don't really like this movie. They think it's a remake that wasn't worth putting out there. I enjoyed it. I think it ages gracefully. I gave it a 7 out of 10. The ways that these kids were keeping themselves awake, they shot themselves in the leg with adrenaline in one scene. I just thought it was really well done. I'm really sad we haven't gotten another Nightmare on Elm Street, but we haven't yet. That, however, wraps up the Elm Street rundown for Aging Gracefully. The next video you get on this subject will be my rankings, where I will tell you what I like the most and what I like the least, and you can argue with me and tell me I have no idea what I'm talking about, and I'm cool with that because everybody's got an opinion on these things. So I'm Matthew Essex. This is Aging Gracefully. I will see you all on the other side.